We have to put OPA in context, and we have to understand that, in fact, the statute was intended to expand liability and was the result of the Exxon Valdez litigation, which was facing a patchwork of very confusing, somewhat contradictory, and limited liability potential under general maritime law. So OPA was actually a good thing at the time. It's now being kicked around as maybe something that's too complicated to understand or is constraining, but it actually is an expansion of the concept of liability for marine pollution under maritime law. Again, it was passed after the Exxon Valdez that strict liability governs pollution from vessels, facilities, or deep water ports into U.S. navigable waters, and there's strict liability, no need to prove fault. That's, again, something that was new because prior to that, there was a fault requirement. We talked about the vessels, vessel limitation, the facility limitation. BP as a lessor, as the professor correctly indicated, is strictly liable up to $75 million for non-cleanup costs. And a deep water port, which is not involved here, would be $300 million. We may have mentioned that Transocean, as the vessel owner, has strict liability as well under OPA, and that is based on the tonnage of the vessel because the rig was actually a floating device. It was not affixed to the seabed and would definitely constitute a vessel. So any oil that was spilled off that vessel, as opposed to oil that's coming up from the bottom of the ocean, would be subject to the liability requirements of OPA as far as Transocean is concerned. As the professor correctly indicated, removal costs, which are limited to taking the oil out of the water, are not subject to limitation. And again, the limitation is broken for gross negligence or the violation of a safety statute, or where a responsible party fails to coordinate and assist in the cleanup. It is very interesting. I think the whole limitation issue is academic at this point. I don't think anybody is realistically thinking that BP is going to come into court and ask for a $75 million limit. By creating this escrow fund, it's pretty clear that they are waiving that. But at the beginning of this process, when we weren't sure, it's very important to note that a contractor's recklessness or violation of the safety statute would be imputed to the responsible party, as a consequence of which anybody down the line who was either reckless or violated a safety statute, that would have probably broken the limitation ability of BP in any event. But again, I think it's pretty academic at this point.